Help give kids an extra life by donating today to help sick and injured children. Link in the description and pinned comment below.
Remember, before you can be bees, first you must do.
For as long as humankind has looked to the stars, one question has lingered in our minds. Are we truly alone in the universe? After all, there's over 100 billion galaxies out there, and probability would dictate that there would be more planets out there with intelligent life on them than just our dinky little water-covered marble, right? Science fiction has often dove headfirst into the idea of alien life, and video games are a perfect medium for that very concept. Although extraterrestrial encounters in games have a tendency to be less than friendly. On the plus side, that means they make for some awesome boss battles. The criteria for this list is as follows. First off, I'm defining the scope of alien being in relation to the protagonist. If they're from the same planet, it doesn't count. Second, the better the boss is at being an alien, the more credit they'll get. And finally, and most obviously, the quality of the boss fight in question. So, put on your black suits, grab your noisy cricket, and get ready to protect the Earth from the scum of the universe. These are the top 10 alien bosses. It's game time! Ask someone who grew up with the NES about the hardest games they've ever played, and there's a chance you'll hear the name Contra. This legendary franchise is known for being balls to the wall hard, and Contra 4 for the DS is no exception. But hey, that's just the way we like it! 9 levels of insane alien blasting goodness from a team of devs who knew what made the classic so satisfying. And it culminates with the evil alien empress known as Black Viper.
Yes, that is in fact a chick.
The game's entire final level is a battle with, through, and inside this alien monstrosity. You first find her early in the level in a chamber under the city where her forces have been harvesting corpses, and there's not much to her petite frame. She'll just charge at you and try to crush you, but this phase doesn't take long. But what happens next is... Absorbing a mountain of corpses, she grows to titanic size, and now you have to blast open her...
Good night, everybody!
This climb through her innards is the majority of the level, and if you thought this bitch was ugly from the outside, just wait until you reach the inside of her head. You've got several targets to blast here. First take care of the big outer eyes, then blast the eyes of the head inside, while also blasting the snake creatures coming out of the top corners. These targets are the most important because each time you destroy one, it'll leave a grapple point behind, giving you an opportunity to pummel the real weak point, the Queen's slimy brain. Every time you manage to get a few hits in on the brain, it will retreat temporarily so that another auxiliary brain can attack you. Of course, these brains can be destroyed for power-ups, with homing missiles being your best bet, so that you can keep blasting the main brain until everything goes kablamo! This is a challenging and satisfying conclusion to one of the best Contra games, as you shoot apart one of the masterminds behind the alien wars from the inside out. It even calls back to Demon Emperor Gava from previous games, who happens to be her brother. However, I can't put this fight any higher because we never truly learn anything about Black Viper except her desire to finish what her brother's forces started. In the end, she just remains a footnote. Still, it's a footnote that reads, "She sure blew up good." Think back to 1988 for a second. For people who are playing Mega Man 2 for the first time. Blasting through Wily's Robot Masters, invading his brand new castle, and finally cornering the dock only to learn he's actually an alien! Oh, wait, no, it was only a hologram. Well, how about we talk about Mega Man Star Force then? With the Legacy Collection coming out next year, I figure now might be the time to talk about what you're up against. And in the first game, you're up against the FMians. EM-based aliens that have invaded Earth on the orders of a paranoid king in order to claim the key that will awaken their ultimate weapon, Andromeda. This planet buster was responsible for the destruction of Planet AM, the home planet of the satellite admins, and for that matter, Omega Sys himself. And now it's got its hungry and lonely eyes set on Earth. and the only thing in its way is an elementary schooler. Sound familiar? In order to even reach Andromeda, Geo and Mega need to fight their way through the systems of the very space station where Geo's father was working before he went missing. And when you corner the FM King Cepheus, he unleashes his weapon on you. The design of its first phase is definitely intimidating, looking like a beast head with claws for teeth. And in the first phase, you've got to whittle down its 2500 HP while dealing with meteors, missiles, and the occasional bite of 220X. Also, it can't be flinched, and the only status ailments that work are poison and counter-based paralysis. Do enough damage, however, and it will unfold into a humanoid form with more missiles, more meteors, and 2 new devastating attacks, an undodgeable fist slam and an unblockable laser. And this form can only be damaged when its core is open except by breaking attacks. Andromeda's presence is imposing for sure, both its beast head form and its humanoid form, but if you can learn to recognize the patterns of its attacks, and you've been stocking up enough strong battle cards, you'll be able to take this monstrosity down and show the king the error of his ways. This is a fun battle that requires constant awareness of Andromeda's attacks as well as proper preparation. The presentation is also on point, from Andromeda's design to the battle theme, which combines tension and melancholy, reflecting Andromeda's nature. Of course, in another tradition carried over from Battle Network, Andromeda has an extra form known as Andromeda Infinity, which can only be fought once you obtain all the title screen marks. Yeah, this form has 4000 HP, equal to Grigar SP, but by now you've got the power of friendship. Or pocket pancakes, whichever works better. Astrobot is the kind of game Sony has been sorely needing of late, as much as they don't want to admit it. The little dude's come a long way from a character for a tech demo for the PS4 to becoming PlayStation's unofficial mascot. And it was 2024's Game of the Year that erased all doubt about the plucky little robot's staying power. Not only is Astrobot a platformer that can go toe-to-toe with the likes of Mario's Best, but it's also a celebration of PlayStation's storied history. Throughout the game, you're rescuing your fellow bots, many of them in cosplay of various PlayStation icons, as you gather the scattered pieces of your PS5 ship. Of course, the reason that your ship is in such a state to begin with is because the CPU kit inside was stolen by this prick, Space Bully Nebulax. And once you've gathered the 5 internal parts of your ship, the jerk appears again to taunt you one more time. But this time, we're ready to fight back. Following a breathtaking shooter level which takes place using a wide assortment of PlayStation hardware and a remix from Thunder Force 5, you finally catch up to the uncouth brute, and it's time to throw down. And he ain't giving back your CPU without a fight. Of course, the way the fight goes depends on a spin of the Wheel of Gimmicks! The VIPs will zoom in to give you ammo to stop the wheel, and where it lands will determine which power-up you get. You're gonna need to use that power-up, be it a magnet, bulldog, octopus, monkey, or frog, to avoid the various obstacles that Nebulax throws in your general direction. And believe me, he has plenty of stuff to throw at you, especially if you're unlucky enough to land on a skull. But aside from the skull, each attack pattern will give you a means of fighting back, and eventually give you the chance to break through his finger blockade and break the chains imprisoning your poor CPU. Of course, Nebulax, being the bully that he is not above being a dirty, rotten cheater. But eventually you free your CPU, and Nebulax is finished once and for the love of Palutena, he's still going? Of course Nebulax won't go down without kicking and screaming the whole way, but with your DualSense cannon you blow away all his projectiles, including a freaking pirate ship, before landing the final blow. But even then...
If I go down, I'm taking you with me!
And Astro is forced to make a heroic sacrifice to... yeah, no, a game like this wasn't gonna end like that. This is a simple fight, but it is straight up fun, testing the skills you've learned in a clever way. Not to mention, Kenneth C.M. Young's music is such a delight, and the fact that you get to play through the credits is the icing on the cake.
But if Sony tries to close Team Asobi, on God, I am gonna bully them!
Sonic Generations wasn't exactly the kind of game I would have expected to get a remake following the success of Frontiers. I mean, what exactly could you do to an already HD game to justify going forward with a remake in the first place? Add Shadow? Well, there was quite an extensive length of time where it felt like Sega didn't know what to do with Shadow without making him seem like the edgelord everyone thought he always was. But the Shadow Generations campaign was peak Shadow. Well-designed throwback levels, awesome new abilities, crazy boss fights, and an actually solid story which forced Shadow to confront his past in contrast to Sonic's story celebrating his. And of course, that means...
Hey, what's up? It's me!
Stop!
Yep, Black Doom came back. Turns out that he can regenerate from any of his Black Arms creations, and now that he's been pulled into white space, he intends to turn Shadow into his weapon by infusing him with his power. Yeah, all those new Doom powers, they came from Black Doom, but Shadow knows who his real family is, and doesn't like the idea of being the puppet of an alien overlord. And while Black Doom's base form was better than his final form in 2005, this time, Black Doom isn't wasting any time. He powers up into Devil Doom right from the start, and let me say, it's a whole lot more thrilling this time around. It starts with a high-speed chase down Radical Highway using Doom Surf, similar to the Metal Overlord fight. You gotta send the meteors that appear right back at Devil Doom while aiming for the rainbow boost rings, which will give you the chance to zoom in and pummel him. After a couple of these, Doom shifts his tactics, firing lasers at the platforms in front of you while you use your Doom Morph to make your way up to him for another shellacking. And the devs realized some people might have trouble with Morph, so they added springs to help you get back up if you fall. But if you think that was dramatic, wait until Black Doom evolves even further into Neo Devil Doom. Now it turns into a chase down with Doomwing, which basically replaces Shadow's super form, while an orchestral remix of All Hail Shadow plays. They could have reprised I Am All of Me for this, but that wouldn't have fit what Shadow has become by this point. As you chase down Neo Devil Doom, you need to dodge the obstacles he creates while keeping your rings up, deflecting his projectiles, and seizing every opening you can find to wallop his ginormous eye, all while enjoying the banter between Shadow and Black Doom. Yeah, Shadow's the man, he knows it, and he wants to make sure that Doom knows it too. Finish off the fight with a few QuickTime events and a cathartic finisher that makes it abundantly clear that Shadow is back. Tempered, of course, by the heartbreaking ending. Honestly, Sonic Team cooked with this fight, and with the entire Shadow Generations campaign. Ian Flynn's writing, the awesome remix music, a fight that tests your mastery of multiple Doom powers, the whole thing makes you wonder where this level of quality has been for so damn long. Shadow has deserved, and let's face it, needed a fight like this for years. Now, Sonic Team, can we get a game of this quality for Silver? Please? I'm sure it can be of use. Many times, Bowser has come off as the Saturday morning, I'll get you next time gadget type of villain. You know, slightly threatening, kinda silly, that kinda stuff. The Mushroom Kingdom has seen far worse, particularly in several of the RPGs. You want creepy? Let's talk about Partners in Time. The Shroops were a full-on alien invasion force while Bowser was literally still in a bib. And they are the furthest thing from subtle. Blasting mushroom homes from their saucers, draining the life force from Toads for soda, kidnapping Yoshis, you name it. Throughout the game, Mario's and Luigi's have to deal with all their shiitake as they try to gather all the pieces of the Cobalt Star to save Princess Peach and fix the fabric of time, ultimately confronting their leader, Princess Shroob. It's a bit of a tricky fight, but not one beyond your abilities by now. Except the truth is revealed all too late.
She had a sister. Princess Shroob had a sister.
Yeah, as it turns out, Peach had trapped the elder Princess Shroob inside the Cobalt Star prior to being kidnapped by the younger. What's more, said elder has been manipulating the brothers through part of the game by posing as the Star Spirit and convincing them to find the pieces of the Cobalt Star. And now, thanks to Baby Bowser's meddling, One-chan is free and boy is she ugly! Oh, and mad. Big mad. The first part of the fight is kinda standard. Her main attack is just charging at you like a running back. She'll also summon her minions in order to perform other attacks, like summoning a Shurified Chain Chomp, firing energy balls at you, and trying to pummel you with meteors. Oh, and she can heal herself. But hey, Peach is here to help by giving you stars to knock down the UFO so you can focus on the malevolent Mushroom Monarch. It's a rather basic first phase, and on its own it's not really that special. But once you do enough damage, shiitake gets real. The mutated princess grows to massive proportions, and now she is pulling out all the stops. Numerous attacks per turn, including from her arms, legs, and crown. Multiple hits that you need to dodge. And Peach? Poor girl fainted from sheer terror. Now you gotta deal with sweeping tentacles, piercing tentacles, slithering tentacles, evil spirit bombs, and poison clouds. But her most terrifying attacks involve summoning a fleet of shroob UFOs, then hurling an energy ball at them, turning them into kamikaze bombs that you have to deflect. And when her health gets low, she can even send them through a time hole to dive bomb you. The fact that these troops are willing to sacrifice themselves in their single-minded goal of destruction tells you just how desperate this battle is. Even the battle theme in this phase of the fight isn't bombastic or threatening. It's depressing and even somber at times. The most common word you hear from these terrifying aliens is destroy. That's all they know. All they were indoctrinated to know. They can't understand anything else because they haven't experienced anything else. That's a big part of what makes the fight with the Elder Shroob Princess so dramatic. This battle shows just how terrifying an evil leader can be when pushed to the brink, especially with those who outsource their thinking to their leader. Unlike most creatures in the Mario-verse, there are no nicer versions of these invaders. They are pure evil. And that's a phrase I don't take lightly in Mario. Heck, compared to the Shroobs, Cackletta seems like a total goofball. To this day, it saddens me that the wonderful 101 got slept on twice. I still consider this game one of the Wii U's best titles because of how absolutely ridiculous it gets, with just enough seriousness to keep you invested. And one thing the game absolutely kills it on is the sense of scale. It's one thing to be able to obliterate hordes of mooks using ginormous weapons made out of the bodies of your teammates. The bosses you face, on the other hand, take boss battles to kaiju level. Of course, you gotta take into account the rules of escalation, which come into play with the leader of the Geth Jerk, Jerginga, and he knows how to make an entrance. You see the Death Star at home shatter space and time to reveal itself, and with some unexpected help from your rival Prince Vorkin, you dodge the enemy defenses and break into the fortress, expecting to find the head Jerk. Except Jerginga reveals that he himself is the fortress. Funny, from where I'm standing he looks like Mother Brain. As the fight starts, you gotta break the core supporting him while dodging an uncomfortable amount of tentacles, while combining claw and hand to rotate the base for the next core. Once the glass jar is broken, you can wail on him with weapons that are 200 members strong, may I remind you. Eventually, you drop into the chamber below, and it becomes a survival wave while Jerginga goes on his villain rant about how his forces came from the future to eradicate humanity before they became space tyrants. And then he goes from Mother Brain to Andross as he dons a giant wonder mask of his own. Now, Wonder Jerginga intends to destroy you by turning your own technology against you by using Unite morphs of his own, including hand, gun, claw, hammer, and bomb, assaulting you with electricity, and creating black holes to seal your teammates away. You're gonna need to know which moves you can counter and which ones to just avoid, and look for any opportunity you can to deal damage to the guy. And after an escape with both the Virgin Victory and the Mazer, you finally... Wait. Jerginga said that he was the fortress himself, right? Oh boy, even Andross never went full Unicron. Unleashing his planet destruction form, Jerginga unleashes his final assault. But we have a Megazord, and you're gonna need to hijack even more Zords to build big enough weapons to break Jerginga's shields. All the while, you're dealing with him bombarding you with bombs, missiles, and hand lasers. But once his shields are down and his life is depleted, and one ridiculous QuickTime event later, you're ready to square up. Now you gotta counter Jerginga's physical blows and meteors, and destroy the cores on his arms and legs, and finally expose the final weak point on the head, which Jerginga will protect with a relentless energy blast assault. But finally, once the last of his health bar is gone, you enter the final QuickTime event sequence, and let me tell you, Absurd is selling the sequence short. Your hand will be feeling it by the time it's over, especially with that last QuickTime event. When your crew is button mashing along with you, that's how you know they knew what they were doing. In a game that's all about being ridiculous, this battle pushes the limit, not just in the absurdity of the scale, but also in terms of the presentation, with amazing visuals and downright epic music, especially the final phase. And considering that this was a big-ass tribute to Super Sentai, Platinum nailed the assignment with this final battle. Why didn't more people play this game? Star Fox is an odd case. Roughly half the releases in the series are retellings of the same plot, and one of those was a straight-up remake. Don't they think we want an original story? Well, that can't be right, considering Star Fox Assault sold reasonably well. And hoo boy, the crap that goes down in this game is a stark reminder that Nintendo isn't afraid to be blatantly dark when they want to be. They don't wait until the middle of the game for the big plot twist. They get Andross's Nepo baby nephew out of the way quickly for the real threat, the Aporoids. And when the normally level-headed Peppy starts freaking out, you know these bug-eyed freaks ain't nothing to mess with. At first, players wonder what the big deal is. Yeah, they're causing trouble, but Andross caused trouble and we rocked his block. I don't see how much worse they could be than that.
You cannot resist us. You will join us.
Okay, Andross never did that!
Oh yeah, the Aporoids are more threatening and more creepy than you are led to believe. It's like they're the insect equivalent to the Borg. They infest machine and animal alike and turn them into twisted biomechanical mutations. Look what they did to Pigma. Hell, look at what they did to General Pepper. So how do we stop these freaks? Well, Slippy got his brains from somewhere, right? Turns out his dad's leading the science team and they've created a self-destruct program that will wipe them all out. But we gotta give it to the Queen first, and she's well protected. When Peppy risks his life to open the path to the core, and even Starwolf risks their hides to make sure you reach the Queen, you know this is getting real. Of course, the Queen knows that not all weaknesses are physical. She uses the voices of Pigma, General Pepper, and even Peppy in order to convince the team to surrender. But she made one fatal mistake. She also used Fox's dad, the one person who would never tell him to give up. And instead of breaking Fox's will, it makes him all the more ready to bust up this bug bitch.
Time to exterminate your queen!
The first phase of the fight is an all-range battle as you work with your teammates to blast away the Queen's armor in order to expose her weak point. Meanwhile, the Queen continues to use the voices of the dead to demand your surrender while countering with energy waves and Aporoid spawn. Eventually, you blow open a hole in her and deliver the payload, but the Queen won't go down that easily. Demanding your submission in her true voice, she suppresses the self-destruct program and flees the scene, and if she gets away, she'll neutralize the program, leaving all that work for nothing. Star Fox gives chase for one last battle. Now the Queen will use its other mouths to fire more spawns and energy balls. Meanwhile, you gotta blast the glowing red weak points until they close so that her head will come out for you to blast it. Your teammates will help you too, so long as you can cover them from the mines that the Queen shoots out. Ultimately, the Queen will get desperate, but now there's nothing holding you back. Just blast the final form and show that evil space hag how we do things in the Lilat system. This is a satisfying battle against a powerful and disturbing foe. After what the Aporoid forces have done to not only the Lilat system at large, but to your own comrades, blasting the core of the hive mind to bits is immensely cathartic. And the music, shifting from menacing to heroic, only further underscores the dynamic of the battle. Now, if only we could get Bandai Namco to help with another Star Fox game. Come on, you've got an entire dev team dedicated to aerial combat simulators. You couldn't be any worse than what Platinum did. You know, when you think about it, the fact that Kirby has had to deal with all manner of eldritch horrors actually makes a lot of sense. The answer is right there in Kirby's Adventure. He's literally fighting against nightmares. Entities of pure darkness, evil interdimensional wizards, witches, giant insects, god computers, cosmic horrors, you name it. And when it comes to extraterrestrial forces and malevolence, well, we got that covered too. Thanks to Forgotten Land and its sinister alien threat, Fecto-Elfilis. Now, Elfilis has been in a tug of war with Magolor over who the better boss is over the past few years, but Magolor comes off as more of a sorcerer than an alien, even though he technically is. With Elfilis, however, there's no doubt. For context, Elfilis is a member of an invasive alien species which absorbs the life forms of other planets so that they can evolve into ultimate life forms. But when Elfilis attacked the people of the Forgotten Land, which is heavily implied to be Earth, by the way, they were captured, experimented on, used to create warp technology, and ultimately split in two in an accident, with their good half becoming Elfilin, your companion, and their malevolent half becoming Fecto-Forgo, the enemy that brainwashed the Beast Pack and ultimately absorbed them just to get their other half back. And once they finally become complete again, there's no compassion left in them. They'll start by launching laser lances at you before diving at you with their spear Antares. That spear is their main modus operandi in Phase 1 with slashes, shockwave stabs, and scraping the ground, not to mention a giant freaking laser! You gotta constantly be on the move to get in a good hit. And once they're done with the second phase, they'll open dimensional portals to assault you with meteors, ramp up their previous attacks, and hide among clones to heal themselves. Eventually, you'll stun them long enough to rescue Elfilin, and how does Elfilus respond? By trying to hurl Popstar itself at you. And how do you respond? By becoming Truck-kun. Yeah, we're getting out of this isekai the same way most people end up in them. And in order to save the two worlds, Elfilin uses his remaining energy to stabilize the gate between the worlds, only to have survived in literally the same cutscene. Oh, by the way!
Fecto Elfilus had a brother.
Yeah, in the Switch 2 expansion, Star-Crossed World, it's revealed that the heart you've been sealing contained another of their species, Genwell Medianelphilus. And not only does this sinister sibling have crystal-powered versions of his siblings' attacks, not only does he go full kaiju on you, but defeating him unlocks the Ultimate Cup ZEX, where Elphilus's final form, Chaos Elphilus, becomes even more powerful with their brother spear, Ares. I talked about how the original Chaos Elphilus fight went before, but they've got even more attacks now, like crystal projectiles, crystal spike traps, oh, and their attacks from the regular Ultimate Cup Z, they're powered up even more now. And in their final soul form, on top of all of its previous enhanced moves, they've added the ability to create spectral clones of the Beast Pack bosses to attack you. Oh, and the crystals they create, they refract the lasers every which way but loose. Even the mechanic where you summon crystal obstacles by hitting crystal switches comes into play when Elphilus becomes a mini sun for an attack. And they can also summon elemental eyes to attack you. But it gives you the chance to damage them by destroying the eyes. It's like Elphilus saw what Magalore did in Return to Dreamland Deluxe and said, bet. But in the end, you prevail against all odds, and Elfilin is able to reunite with what remains of his other half, but now the good half is in control. Already this was an amazing fight, but Star-Crossed World made it even better, with an even more challenging battle, expansion on the lore that made it even more insane, and they even made the already awe-inspiring boss theme even more amazing. Kirby and the Forgotten Land was proof positive that Kirby can truly excel in 3D, and Fecto Elphilus was the cherry on top of this sundae. And I'm already hungry for more 3D Kirby, thank you. Throughout the Metroid series, one important element to the lore has always been the Chozo, the mysterious avian alien species that raised Samus after her home was destroyed. We've seen their legacy across several games in the franchise, in the items that they left behind for Samus, the power suit she wears, even her very DNA. And yet, there was always the suspicion that there was more to these beings than we'd been led to believe, and the hidden lore of Samus Returns hinted that not all of them were benevolent. Then comes Metroid Dread, and the lid was blown off. At the very start of Samus's mission on ZDR, she's confronted by an unknown Chozo and gets absolutely wrecked, surviving for a reason not yet clear to her. And then, when she meets a Chozo named Quiet Robe in the chamber of the 6th Emmy, all is revealed. It turns out that the Chozo are as prone to tribalism as humans. Namely, there were two major tribes of Chozo, the peaceful and scientific Thoha tribe, and the warrior Mawkin tribe. The Mawkin were led by the very Chozo that attacked Samus at the start of the game, Ravenbeak. And this warlord was responsible for more than we would have guessed. When the Chozo created the Metroids to combat the X-Parasites, they went out of control, forcing the Chozo to steal them. Ravenbeak, however, had other plans, and slaughtered the Thoha save for Quiet Robe, hoping to use the Metroids as an army. But with the X infiltrating his ranks and Samus eliminating the Metroids, Ravenbeak changed his plans, turning his focus to the last source of Metroid DNA in the galaxy, Samus herself. He engineered the release of the X-Parasites on ZDR to lure in the Emmys, in turn fleshing out Samus to lure her into his trap. By taking control of the Emmys and unleashing his bioweapons against Samus, and posing as Adam throughout the game to keep her going, he sought to push the bounty hunter to her limits, for a singular purpose: to obtain her Metroid DNA in order to create an unstoppable army. Oh, and by the way, while Samus got her Thoha genes from Grey Voice, she also got Mawkin DNA from Ravenbeak. So when you finally confront him, it turns into basically one big family feud. And I haven't even gotten to the fight yet, and damn, it's a straight up masterpiece. You're fighting a pure warrior here in a 3-phase gauntlet. Phase 1 has him dishing out dark energy, sweeping lasers, shockwaves, and punishing physical attacks which require you to have mastered your countering. And the grab sequences in this fight are awe-inspiring and nothing short of cinematic, as he uses his beam like a giant lightsaber. Eventually, he'll lose his cape and spread his giant wings, and this phase will keep you on the move constantly. Between his relentless arm cannon and his punishing physical attacks, you cannot afford to stand still while you fight back against him. But eventually, Samus will blast off one of his wings. Does that mean Ravenbeak is gonna go one-winged angel? Ha! He tears off his other wing with a vengeance! Thus begins Phase 3, a ramped-up reprise of the first phase with additional attacks including laser blasts, shine sparks, and miniature suns. But ultimately, Samus will wear him down and move in for the kill. But it still isn't enough. Ravenbeak grabs her by the throat and gloats over his victory, with Samus dead to rights, only for her Metroid power to fully awaken, leading to one of the most cathartic and downright hardcore finishes ever in a Nintendo game. And even after that, Ravenbeak is still not finished. Possessed by one last X-Parasite, he mutates into a grotesque monstrosity, only for Samus and her new Metroid suit to finish him off for good. Just... wow. I used to think Ridley's fights were the pinnacle of what Metroid could offer, but Ravenbeak's battle makes Ridley glad that he wasn't in Dread. This was essentially a battle between father and daughter, with Ravenbeak having more powerful versions of Samus's own skills, and knowing how to use them like the battle-hardened warlord that he is. It's hard as hell, but at no point does it become unfair, and the fast-paced, intense battle theme makes it clear that you're fighting for your life. And the aftermath honestly had me worried, and still kinda does. If it weren't for the X-Quiet Robe, Samus would have died a full Metroid in the explosion. Now she's back in control, but what if it happens again? What if she becomes the kind of monster she's been fighting? And before we move on, here are some honorable mentions. Zoda, Star Tropics, so much of a hater that he planted clones of himself throughout time to get even. Gygus, Earthbound. How about that? The one-time thoughts and prayers actually work. Lavos, Chrono Trigger. Not only does it matter how you fight him, but when. Soul Mandler, Soul Cresta. A final showdown 25 years in the making. King Galaxian, Pac-Man World. Repack added a bit more meat to this fight. Lord Brevin, Freedom Planet. If your final boss is just one guy with a weapon, you're in for trouble. And now let's see what the Arcade Nation has to say with this month's Patron Picks.
Nitrous Oxide from Crash Team Racing is an extremely grueling final boss, yet one that's immensely satisfying all the same. It's one thing that he uses all of the items that the other bosses use, but he also cheats by crossing the starting line before the light even turns green, and yet defeating him is pure justice against the alien who wants to turn the entire Earth into a concrete parking lot.
Metal Slug 3 is often cited as the best in the series, a lot of that due to its final mission. From pursuing the fake Mordant, to going to the mothership alongside the rebel army, to rescuing your fellow captured soldier and defeating what's supposed to be the final boss, and then you escape only to get assaulted by the real final boss. Facing up against real Mars was totally unexpected, but well worth it for such a final mission. And then in Metal Slug 6, it gets even better. Play your cards right, you even fight alongside Real Mars, or you may be rescued by him.
Each of the bosses I've talked about so far have been menacing in their own right. I mean, games have done an excellent job of showing us how dangerous extraterrestrials could possibly be. Of course, one thing that fans of science fiction can understand is that sci-fi and horror are strange bedfellows. Part of that can be attributed to fear of the unknown. And when it comes to sci-fi and horror, there's one figure that's truly out of this world. And I would be remiss if I were to make a list about alien bosses without including the alien. The most terrifying of outer space creatures, a threat to any who find themselves in its presence.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
Well, that ruined the mood.
Yeah, while I haven't seen the Alien movies, I do know enough to understand that the task of translating a creature as dangerous as the Xenomorph to the medium of video games and doing them justice has historically been anything but easy. These creatures are walking, living weapons created by another alien race designed to quickly adapt to any environment or prey. Yeah, even good games like Alien vs. Predator in the arcades would have trouble properly recreating that kind of intelligence and straight-up menace, let alone games like Alien 3 on the NES. And Aliens Colonial Marines? Yeah, don't get me started on that train wreck. The only thing that game got right about the Xenomorphs is remind us of the value of a good QA team. If you want to make the Xenomorph smart, you have to go beyond simply making the enemy smart. You need to make the game smart. And the game that does this best is Alien Isolation. Yeah, I'm sure that at least some of you saw this coming, but can you blame me? I actually streamed this game for research purposes earlier this year, and let me tell you, they did a great job of putting me on edge. The game excels in building tension, with the unnerving atmosphere of the rundown station which serves as the site of your mission, and with one of these terrors stalking the ship, that tension is going to skyrocket faster than the old space shuttles. And you're going to have to do everything you can to confront one of these things and make it out alive. This isn't a boss you kill, it's a boss you survive. You'd think a body like that wouldn't be too hard to hide from, but the Xenomorph isn't your typical boss. It doesn't have patterns you can memorize or predictable reactions you can easily exploit. It's programmed in a unique way when compared to most bosses. It has 2 brains in its coding. One of them controls the Xenomorph itself, and the other is programmed to give it information on the environment so that it can adapt, generally track you down, and try to predict what you do based on how you're playing the game. In other words, while you're playing the game is playing you by constantly adapting the alien to your playstyle. This means that it's not enough to understand the alien. You need to understand how you, yourself, are playing. How stressed do you get when you notice something amiss? Are you more prone to running from danger or tackling it head on? Are you more likely to be cautious or reckless? Where do you tend to hide? This is a key part of how the game works, because you never know just what the game is telling the Xenomorph about you, so you never know when you're safe and when you're in danger. But at the same time, it's important to remember, this isn't an actual living thing. It's lines of code in a program. This is just part of a game, and games are meant to be beaten. And once you realize this, you realize that it is, in fact, possible to escape this devastating predator. But in order to do so, you need to take every opportunity you can get, whether it means learning the lay of the station as you go and memorizing the locations of hiding spots, knowing the best time to use the tools you find, or even taking advantage of the game's moments of mercy. You need to be able to move both quickly and skillfully to avoid the alien's notice. And as long as you can both plan and adapt the way that the Xenomorph does, you have a chance. Alien Isolation is a masterclass in creating the closest a video game gets to making you live through a horror movie. And that comes largely down to how smart the Xenomorph is. In creating a monster that can adapt both to the game's environment and to the way you play, Creative Assembly crafted a horror experience like no other. This constant game of cat and mouse between you and the Xenomorph truly captures what it feels like for a normal human to face the greatest terror that extraterrestrial life has to offer.
Of course, fear of the unknown plays a big part in why aliens are so often portrayed as being dangerous in the first place. For all we know, actual extraterrestrials might actually find certain varieties of humans to be dangerous. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that's why they were avoiding us in the first place. I'm the Quarter Guy, and until next time, the arcade is closed.
Reactions on the radar. Recognized code CC30. Distance 12,000 Dal. Third and fourth thrust engine. Ignition. Main engine energy level 20% increase. I always wanted a thing called tuna sashimi. Damn, now I'm starting to get hungry. Does anybody know if there's a restaurant near this arcade? Next time, QG at the arcade. Darius, it's game time! Hey everyone, QG here. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share the video around. Feel free to check me out on Blue Sky and Tumblr, as well as my live streams on Twitch. If you want to support my channel, you can become a channel member or check out my Patreon, and don't forget about my Extra Life campaign supporting Children's Wisconsin. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time!